Hello everyone, welcome to the 7th episode of my Kerbal Space Program Let's Play. In this episode we're going to begin sort of laying down the foundation for some of the later things that we're going to be doing in this Let's Play. I've really not talked a lot about the overarching plans that I have for what we're going to be doing in this Let's Play. So, in general, usually when I play Kerbal Space Program, I follow a similar sort of path. I like to build a lot of space stations around different planetary bodies. I like to build landers with those space stations, refueling ships, tugs to move things between those different space stations. I like building a lot of space infrastructure. So in this episode, we're going to begin designing some of that initial infrastructure. And with any luck, launching that infrastructure and getting some initial test results on how these different ships and stations are going to behave. But this infrastructure is going to be expensive, which is where this ship that we're designing right here comes into play. We're going to need to accomplish a few contracts to make money, and relay satellites are a really easy way to make money in a Kerbal Space Program career. And honestly, when you think about it, what's better than being able to complete one relay satellite contract? Being able to complete two relay satellite contracts. For that reason, we have two relay satellites on here. In addition to that, we have the main mission of this satellite, which is that science bay right there in the middle. To support it, we have a few different crew capsules. We have the one all the way at the top there on the right. We also have the two-person crew capsule right below it, and at the bottom we have a four-person crew capsule. Now we're only going to have 3 or 4 crew members on this ship, but we have much more room than they would require. We're doing that because we have this health mod. And the Kerbals will take less damage over time if they have more room to survive in, which makes sense. If you're going to be sending a mission out into deep space, you want your crew to have a decent amount of room to be able to move around in. Eventually, we managed to finish the design of this ship, and I think that there are 2 worthwhile things to call out here that are different. On the right side, you can see at the top right that radiator that is against the crew capsule. That's purely for aesthetics. I just think it looks cool. We don't need to dissipate that much heat. But at the top there, you can see a SAS module that is attached to an arm that will extend. This will allow us to move that SAS further away and increase the amount of torque it can generate. Now that the station's designed, we will eventually have to design a launcher, but before that we want to make sure that we'll be able to adequately crew the station. For that reason, we hire another scientist. She doesn't have much courage, but also isn't that stupid, so seems like a good choice for a scientist. Change her uniform around just a little bit to be a cool looking scientist, and off we go. Once we reach orbit, I realize I've made a bit of a mistake here, and we're at 500 kilometers when our contract wants us to be below 250 kilometers. Now, this is the kind of mistake that I make quite often. And I sometimes think whether or not I should be saving more often or setting things up so that I can avoid letting this leak into my Let's Plays, but I think that it adds a nice little flavor to it. I find that a lot of the most interesting problems that I solve come from when I've made mistakes from my own stupidity. So I don't know. I at least hope that y'all will enjoy these at least as much as I do. So we go ahead and set our periapsis below 250 kilometers. And before we set our apoapsis below 250 kilometers, we want to release these 2 satellites. We want to allow them to take advantage as much as possible of the amount of energy they have from this ship being in an elliptical orbit. Now that those satellites are deployed, we can go ahead and circularize our orbit around Kerbin. We just want to be able to complete this contract. It needs us to be below 250 kilometers for, I think it's about 2 days. There is one thing that we're unsure about, which is whether or not this will be able to survive in the shadow of Kerbin. If it will be able to survive for a full half of an orbit without getting solar power, and whether or not we've given it enough batteries. That's one of the goals of this mission, is to figure out whether or not our design is adequate for being in the shade. And even as early as when we come to this final circularization burn, we begin to realize that there simply is not enough solar power generation on this ship. We don't even have enough solar panels to power what we have right now in terms of both the comfort modules and the science module. So at the very least, we will need to increase the amount of solar power being generated, if not also increase the amount of battery capacity that we have overall. Before we worry about all that nonsense, though, we can take care of at least a few of these relay satellites and make a little money beforehand. We want to set up these burns to put it in the correct orbit, so we start off by finding the ascending and descending nodes and setting up a burn to put our apoapsis at one of those nodes, and then we set up a burn to match the correct plane and circularize. After a conveniently sped up burn, we just need to adjust our final burn here that will put us into the correct orbit for this relay mission. With that burn completed, the satellite is in the correct orbit to be able to accomplish that contract. We've made a little bit of money, and I think as well that with that we will be ending this episode. In the next one, we will be designing and launching an upgrade for the space station that we launched in this episode to make sure that it will be able to handle all those Kerbals in there, be able to do all the research and everything. But for now, I think that this has been enough. I've been trying to keep these episodes pretty short, so if y'all like this style, let me know in the comments. If you would prefer a bit more, let me know as well. And I'll be happy to change the way I'm making these videos to suit what y'all are looking for. But in the meantime, thank you very much, and I'll see y'all next episode.